Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of History Behind the Page, the live series where you get to know more about the people behind your favorite history pages. About that, my Siri keeps turning on because apparently I keep whatever. Anyways, welcome to this week's episode. Tonight we have JD from the History Underground and Chris from Blogging Through History back on. So it's going to be a fun night tonight. We're going to catch up, chat a little bit about what's going on. This is a live Q&A too as well, so you are more than welcome to ask questions. On the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there is a little question mark bubble. Go ahead and submit your questions there, as when they get put in the comments, sometimes they get lost, and we want to make sure that we get to as many questions as we can in the allotted time. So, hope everybody's having a good Thursday, and let's get this show on the road. We'll get JD and Chris on here. Let me just invite. Hey, JD.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
That's good. That's good. Day going
Looks
good
like
so far?
it looks like I'm cutting off the top of my head here or something.
I know
Adjust this maybe.
it's always fun doing the adjust the camera once you get on with something.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hold on. Invite Chris. He'll be on just a second. Whew.
All right.
There he
There we
is.
go.
Hey, you're looking sharp today. Look at that hair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's getting long. It needs cut.
How are you, Chris?
Doing pretty good. This is a welcome break. I've been glued to the news all day today, so I need to get away from it.
Yeah, from with the passing of the Queen today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big moment. That's 70 years of, 7 decades of ruling.
As a person who loves history, it doesn't get more historic than what we're watching unfold. My mother-in-law was 3 years old the last time this happened, so it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is definitely. That is crazy. JD, what do you think of the whole historic event that's going on? Not event. I don't want to say event. That's the wrong word, but historic.
Well, no, you're right. It's a historic event. Having the kind of passing of the old guard. This is another member of this generation that has kind of faded and passed on to the next life. It's sad to see this generation go. I think she's the last member of the royal family who served in World War II, to the best of my knowledge.
But not the last living person who was a monarch during World War II.
Oh, interesting.
The last Tsar of Bulgaria is still alive.
Oh, wow. Oh,
But yeah, she served during the war, so yeah, last one of those for sure.
Yeah, this is all more in Chris's wheelhouse.
Yeah,
stuff with monarchs and royalty and everything.
When I got the news alerts this morning on my phone at like 3:00 in the morning that they were worried about her health. I was like, today's going to take a really weird turn, like history wise. And then that happened. So that's, yeah. We get a new kind of like face leader of our country every 4 to 8 years. So imagine being the citizens of Britain and you're, that's all you know. Like that's a big change. So it's not like here.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's catch up. So what have each of you been up to since we last spoke? What's been on the books for Blogging Through History and the History Underground?
I think the last time we talked was before we were going to be getting together in Antietam, so we did that. The two of us spent several days together. I think he was there another couple of days after I left, but and we also had a day with Gary from American Battlefield Trust, so that was a lot of fun. So you'll probably start seeing some of that content in the next week on my channel. And then whenever he gets done with all his gallivanting through the Pacific, we'll probably see it on his channel. Which, by the way, if anybody's watching and they haven't seen it, his stuff from the Pacific is fantastic. You got to check it out.
It's amazing. Oh my God.
Thank you.
JD, how was that whole trip for you? Like that, the stuff that you're putting out right now is just mind blowing and amazing. Like how was that whole experience for you?
It was hot. It gave me, yeah, it really gave me an all new appreciation for what those guys that fought in the Pacific went through.
Mhm.
Um, that's the one thing that I don't think I can really translate well on film is just how suffocating the heat and humidity are there. It is. I don't know how those guys did it. And, I'm just carrying around a camera and stuff like that. Those guys, had full packs and they're carrying around the, BAR, M1 Garand, and they've got people shooting at them. I don't know how they did it. Um, so yeah, it's given me an all new appreciation. And, yeah, there have been some things that have happened in Saipan since I left. The episode where I went to where the largest bonsai charge of the war
Mhm.
took place, about a month after I left, where I had parked my car, and there's some places that where I'm filming, like in this grown up field, there's some elephant grass and everything in there. They went in and found the remains of a bunch of Japanese soldiers there. So they
Oh
Mm.
wow.
excavated like right where I was standing.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and then I was talking to Fred, the guy who was showing me around is in the video. There's another episode where I go into a cave and we found the bones of a Japanese soldier and like pieces of clothing and some brass from the M1 Garand that was shot in there. Um, but those bones have since been collected by the Japanese government and
Mhm.
repatriated. So yeah, well, I wish I
Oh,
could have been there while that was happening. That would have been
Mm.
really interesting to document. But
that is so you went in that cave and you found like nobody's found those before. So did you report it to the?
um, Fred knew that they were there.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Hmm.
and then yeah, and then we report, or I say we, he reported it, and yeah, and then the Japanese. I forget what the official name is. Fred calls them the Japanese bone collectors, because I think there's still like 20,000 Japanese unaccounted for
Mm.
on the island.
Wow.
Yeah,
That wow. Was that
Jeez.
and
your is that your first time in the Pacific? You've been other
you-
places, haven't you?
that's my first time in the Pacific. I had
Oh.
never been there before. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
that was a new experience for me.
And I don't know
And
if
now
your
I want to go back.
experience was my wife and I. We just had our yesterday was our 20th anniversary.
Yes,
Um,
happy
Happy
wedding
anniversary.
thank you.
anniversary.
But our Hawaii was our honeymoon, and I remember being really surprised at the fact that there were more Japanese people there visiting as tourists than Americans. But which makes
Hmm.
sense considering their proximity to Japan. But
Hmm.
it's just something I'd never thought of before. Even going to Pearl Harbor, there were a lot of Japanese people visiting Pearl Harbor, so that was different than I expected. I don't know if that was your experience too or not.
Yeah, so travel was still a little wonky
Oh, yeah.
whenever I was there. So their Japanese tourists hadn't come in. And by the way, I've been having some internet issues lately. I hope that my feed isn't breaking up or anything like that.
You're good. You're good
Um,
right now. Yeah.
okay, all right. Um, but anyway, they have a lot of Japanese tourists that come to Saipan, and I filmed some stuff, but I couldn't really find a good way to work it in. They're along, especially Bonsai Cliff, on
Hmm.
the northern part of Saipan at Marpy Point. There are tons of Japanese memorials.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think. If I remember, I don't think there are any American memorials up there.
Hmm.
It's all Japanese and Korean.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so the Japanese tourism is like a huge part of tourism in Saipan. Now they're starting to see more Chinese who are there. Um, Guam, I'm not so sure, but definitely in Saipan, and then yeah, a lot of Japanese tourism in Hawaii. So
Hmm.
I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, while you're over there, are you going to Iwo Jima? Are you going here? Are you going there? And that's one thing that I've got a little bit of a burr under my saddle about is, like Iwo Jima, the Japanese government is extremely restrictive about
Hmm.
access. They allow, there are a couple companies that they'll allow like on the anniversary, and you essentially go there, they have a ceremony, you get to stay for a few hours, and then you leave.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, so it's almost impossible to get to Iwo Jima. And yet here on these American territories where their soldiers fought, it's open access, for them to come and see where their ancestors fought. But,
Oh wow, that is super interesting. So are we
yeah.
anticipating more Pacific episodes, or are we almost at the tail end?
We're on the downhill side. Let me think. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 4 more from Guam, and then 2 more from Tinian. Yeah, and then we'll start in on the Antietam content that I shot with Chris.
Okay, so Chris, why don't you tell us about how that was?
So it wasn't so much the heat. We had a real bug problem, I know, for part of our time in Antietam. My goodness. You'll see it in some of my videos where, like, they're just everywhere. It was crazy. And I know he had a problem where it was so bad he couldn't even film at the South Mountain battlefield. So that was a lot. And we kept getting recognized, like, especially I think the last couple of days we were there, like toward the weekend when the weather cooled off a little bit. There were a lot more people on the battlefield. And like when we were with Gary, every so often somebody would walk up and we just kind of say, which one? Like, we're trying to figure out who it is that they recognize. And it's kind of cool too, because right now all 3 channels are right around the same number of subscribers, like 320,000 subscribers. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. We stayed in an Airbnb together. And so we were able to kind of bounce off each other some ideas and kind of include each other a little bit. And by the way, those pink ones, I need some more, JD. So hook me up. He got me hooked on these Apple ones, and he got a shipment of a new flavor that isn't out yet. And he sent a couple with me because he couldn't fly home with them, and they were fantastic. So.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, no, it was great. And it was nice, because the second time we've been together, we were together last year when we first met down at Toccoa. But this was the first time we kind of planned really, to do stuff together. So I'm excited for people to see it, because even though we both have, like, I don't know, 10 or 12 or how many videos we're going to have, they're going to complement each other well. There's not going to be a lot of overlap between the video series, because there's so much to cover, and we covered it from kind of different perspectives. So I'm excited for that to be shared.
So besides the bugs, what was the toughest thing about filming? About getting the footage that you guys need and planning the whole thing out? What was the toughest thing?
There wasn't a whole lot of difficulty as far as planning. Chris had a really good idea going in. He said, "Hey, how about, whenever we do this, we kind of show like the same thing from both sides." So there'll be some videos, like at there's a place in the battlefield called the cornfield, or like the sunken lane.
Yeah.
And on one video, I might kind of focus a little bit more on the Confederates' perspective, and then you can jump over to his channel and you can see that same action a little bit more from the Union perspective. And also the way that I approached it was more like a very broad view, so almost looking at the battle from 30,000 feet. And Chris, a lot of his episodes, it's going to kind of zoom in and tell a lot more personal stories, which is what he really excels at.
Yeah, so kind of like when I was in World War I, and I would go around and tell a specific story. So like he might tell the story of the cornfield, and I might tell you, well, here's the story of one of the units that was fighting in the cornfield. So that's why I think they're going to complement each other really well.
Oh, that is exciting. So we're going to be seeing these coming out in the next few weeks.
Yeah, we're 9 days from the 160th anniversary, so I'm hoping to get at least my first one out as close to that as I can. And I know he'll start doing his after his current stuff's over. So my problem is just I got to get it edited. I still have probably 25 videos that I shot before Antietam that I haven't even gotten to yet. So I got videos from the Netherlands. I was working today on my video from the Margraten Cemetery that I shot back in May. I've got a bunch of stuff still from my trip to New England last year that I haven't done. I've got 8 videos worth of stuff from my trip to Arlington National Cemetery that I shot last November that I haven't done yet. So I'm a mess when it comes to editing.
Dude, that is a lot of stuff. How do you guys when each of you do mass footage like that, when you guys are filming for upcoming episodes and stuff, how do you how do you decide what's gonna, get put out first? How do you be organized with it, or like, what does that process look for each of you?
Go ahead.
So for me, I've gotten to where I start to do like clusters, so like a little mini series type thing. So
Mm-hmm.
right now I'm doing this little mini series on Operation Forager, in the Pacific, and then I might try and do like a few little one-off videos here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So that allows me a little bit more flexibility, and then I'll try and jump to another one. That really it makes it easier in some ways. Because people who are reviewing can get more of a broad picture of the historical event and kind of stick with it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the where it's kind of a little bit of a millstone for me is, of course, right now I'm in the middle of this Pacific War stuff, and I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
locked into it. Uh,
Yeah.
I would love to start pumping out my Antietam footage around the anniversary and have it coincide with whenever Chris is going to put his out.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm too obsessive compulsive to do that. I like have to finish the Pacific War stuff first
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
before I roll in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So for me, I tend to, like, when I shoot a bunch of footage, like on a trip, like, when I went to France back in February and I shot 6 days worth of stuff on those battlefields. After I was done with it, I kind of looked back at it and I thought, what's the strongest one I got? What's
Mm-hmm.
the one that's going to hit the most? And for me, it was the Somme, which was the last stuff that I shot, but the
Oh
first
yeah.
stuff that I put out. Because to me, that one just hit me different. And there was just something that I really connected with. And I felt like it was my strongest series that I could put together from that trip. So I started with that and then kind of worked my way backwards from there. I'll
Mm-hmm.
probably do the same thing with Antietam. But one of the other things I've been doing in the meantime, which part of it is because it's easier for me as a person who abhors the editing process, but also because it seems to be pretty popular. I've been over on my BTH Originals channel, which is just kind of the place I put all just that stuff and none of the reactions, but I do them on both. But anyway, I've been doing like these little clips. So, for example, when I went to Margraten Cemetery, I went around and told the stories of some soldiers. And what I've done is I've made those like their own little excerpts. So, like a
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 minute video talking about the one guy who got the Medal of Honor and telling his story. It's going to be part of the larger video about the cemetery, but it seems like doing those little things helps, and it maybe attracts a certain kind of audience that doesn't want to watch a 20-minute video but will watch a 3-minute video. So
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that is crazy. So we have all of your guys' stuff coming up, and then future stuff. Chris, I know that you're going to Bastogne in November.
are you is the question.
I am trying so hard. I'm working out with my work right now because I used all my vacation days for the Band of Brothers symposium last month, and so I'm trying to work it out. But we'll see. It's a yes right now. So
Yeah. So what's cool about this one, obviously, like JD, I've been to Bastogne now, but I'm taking my boys with me. So this
mm-hmm.
is going to be a unique experience. We're going to England first. We're going to see 3 professional football matches in 4 days while we're there. So we're going to be kind of doing this whirlwind thing between Manchester and West Brom. We're going to see Manchester United, Man City play, and West Brom play, and then we're going to fly to Bastogne from there, fly to Belgium from there. I'm trying to figure out if I can squeeze in a visit to Waterloo while we're there, since we're flying into
Mm-hmm.
Brussels. Yeah,
That'd be
but
good.
that may wait for my next trip, because I'm already thinking about the trip after that, which is going to be back to World War I, probably in February again, because the weather was pretty mild last year when I was there, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody's on those battlefields, which is glorious.
Yeah.
So probably going back to the Western Front, more World War I content, but this time further north. So Ypres, Passchendaele, Vimy Ridge. I'm going to do a video I'm already working on where I'm going to visit the graves of the people that were shot down by the Red Baron and tell some of their stories.
Oh wow.
Because I've got a list of all the people he killed, and I've been kind of doing research on all of them. So I might do Waterloo when I go on that one, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's crazy. JD, I know that you have, you just did your trip, the Pacific, and then with you and Chris, but do you have any like future trips planned or like a path that you're going that you're wanting
N-
to go?
Now I want to go to the World War One battlefields like Passchendaele and
That's all right, because
Ypres.
I want to go where you're going next. So.
No, so my next one, here in the fall, I'm going to be linking up with Eric Dorr from Gettysburg Museum of History and going to southern Germany, going to Munich, and then we're going to go to Austria. So that'll include a trip to Berchtesgaden, going up to the Eagle's Nest, and a bunch of stuff like that. So shooting a lot of content for the American Artifact series, and then some stuff. Haven't quite figured it out completely yet. I need to. What I'm going to do for the History Traveler stuff, but mainly Munich and Berchtesgaden, and then a little bit into Austria.
Wow.
And then I after that, I don't know. I'm working on that. I would love to go to Israel.
Oh,
and
that would be awesome.
And do some like biblical history type stuff.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah, and then World War One is a big gap on my channel. Revolutionary War, I've thought about trying to do something there. So I have more ideas than I have time and money for.
Yeah,
but,
I hear you.
You guys need a
but the one that's set
vacation.
in stone is Europe.
It's set in stone is Europe. Germany, that's South Germany.
Yeah.
So the Eagle's Nest, I mean, I've never been there, but isn't it, they turned part of it into a restaurant, or it was a restaurant at some point, and isn't the full Eagle's Nest not standing there anymore?
Okay, so the Eagle's Nest is there, but the Berghof is not.
Oh, okay.
So the Berghof was his home. The Eagle's Nest was like just this mountain retreat, just kind of a show-off place. The Berghof unfortunately got destroyed after the war, and there's still little remnants here and there. It's going to be interesting shooting all that stuff. It's going to be, I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect on this trip, because getting access to some of these places whenever you're talking about like World War II and the Third Reich and things like that, people can be a little bit dicey about, that kind of stuff in that area. Not like in France, where it was a little bit easier to move around and talk about it, but a little bit more sensitive, I guess I should say.
I'm counting on there being some epic drone footage from the Eagle's Nest in that area.
Oh, really?
There better be.
I'm hoping so.
So when you both go to these places, to all these historical places, ones that aren't, that do have a staff or a little bit more private, do you guys ever have trouble? I know I've asked this question before, but for people who've never heard this answer, do you guys have ever trouble being able to film, or been asked to stop, or have had to like nudge people to be like, come on, let me film, or, this is what I do?
I think
like that?
JD, I think maybe you've had a little issue with that. I never have, but I can't really think of any issues that I've had, other than places that I knew going in I wouldn't be able to, like when we were at the Tower of London, you can't film the crown jewels. So, that kind of stuff where nobody's allowed to film. But no, I haven't really run into too much of that. The tricky one is when you're dealing with the drones, because there's a lot of rules about how and when you can fly those. And if you're shooting drone footage for a YouTube channel, it's considered commercial. So then you have to have a license, and you can get fined by the FAA for that. And so there's a lot of those things. And public battlefields in the U.S., you can't technically take off or land from those, but you can take off or land 1 foot outside the boundary and fly over the battlefield if you want to. So just kind of figuring all that stuff out. But
what I had absolutely no idea. Wow, that's a lot.
Oh yeah,
for drones. I had no idea. I just thought.
Yeah, the process of becoming a drone pilot is intense, and it's a pain.
I mean, it makes sense, because I mean, they're not just like, it's not like a remote control little buggy car or something, an RC car or whatever. It's actually like
right.
So,
and if you're doing it on YouTube and your channel is monetized, then yeah, you're required by the FAA to be, it's called a Part 107 federally licensed drone pilot. The way that I found out about it was a guy from the FAA reached out to me and let me know that I was operating illegally. And he was completely nice. He said, "No," he said, "I really like your channel, so I'm not going to fine you." He said, "But you need to cease drone operation until you get that sorted out." So,
Oh, that's insane.
so for at least I'm glad he liked the channel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a plus for you and saved you a little bit of money. So what was the most difficult thing for you, like when it's come to shooting footage, or have you ever had any troubles where somebody's like, don't, no filming here, all that type of stuff?
Yeah. So I mean, just as a personal thing, I hate filming around people. And it's not their fault. They have every right to be there, as me. But I just hate filming around people because I feel like such a moron whenever I'm doing it. And then the only times I've really had problems, there have been a few places that I have fortunately reached out to first and said, like, one was a place a couple hours from me that had it was a castle in the Midwest that had some German and Italian prisoners of war during World War II. And I was like, yeah, that'd be kind of a cool place. And I reached out, and that lady was quite adamant that she did not want me or my camera anywhere near her property, or because her thinking was, if I was talking about this with Scott and Jen from Walk with History, that if the footage gets shown on YouTube and people see it on YouTube, they won't want to come and visit the site.
Oh, it's the opposite.
Was her logic?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I can see why.
1,000% the opposite.
Yeah.
It's the complete opposite. There have been several places where I've filmed and people didn't know about it, and then traffic ends up picking up there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there are any other places where.
Didn't you tell me, was it Tippecanoe you had an issue?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was after the fact. Yeah, so I went and filmed
what happened there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Thank you for incriminating me, on a public forum here. Yeah, so I went and filmed in Indiana and went to the Battle of Tippecanoe site. It's a public area, so it was state property that I was filming on, and afterward, I got an email from some people at whatever the organization is that controls their public areas in Indiana, letting me know that I'd violated some regulations and that I was supposed to get approval first, and there was like all this paperwork that had to be done. Now they were completely cool about it, and they said they love the video, and they think it's going to.
See, at least everybody, when they complain, they like your videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I've dodged several bullets there. But anyway, so they let me just do the paperwork retroactively, and and we're completely cool about it.
Oh wow!
But yeah,
that's so interesting. We have a few questions here. We'll get to.
Sure.
This is actually an entertaining question because I love when you guys post this stuff, and everybody else does. How do you feel about the stupid commentaries on your YouTube videos? I personally enjoy them a lot.
I learned from him about how to deal with those. I've started doing what he does, which is publicly shaming them. I handle them a couple of different ways. If they're ridiculously ignorant or racist or just like hateful, I just delete them and block the person from commenting on the channel. I don't even engage those. But my favorite ones are the ones where they think they've gotcha with correcting something that they think is wrong. And I just simply say, hey, do you have any documentation that can back that up? And usually they go, oh, I looked it up. I guess you were right. Or I'll post something and say, well, here's where I got the information from, and usually they don't respond. So I kind of have fun with those ones. But yeah, occasionally you get those really just ignorant ones, and I like to screenshot those and post them. Like the ones who go to my reaction videos and then complain that I pause and talk as
Yeah.
if they were not expecting that. I don't know.
There's a lot of logic, like logical thinking, I feel, that goes in before the, those comments when they get posted. You're like, did you think before you typed, or did you just ran with it? JD, what about you?
Oh, I love those people. Those are my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
That's my entertainment in the morning. Whenever I wake up is reading the negative comments. I like the positive comments more, and
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I know that I post a lot of the negative stuff, and it's just because I find it hilarious. The vast majority, like over 99%, is positive.
Yeah.
I can count on one hand the number of comments that I've deleted out of the hundreds of things that I've posted. Because my philosophy is, if people want to show how ignorant they are, I'm going to let them,
Yeah, go
and
read it.
and let everything sorted out. The only times I've deleted comments is whenever there's been somebody on the one of the shows with me, and they just say something really, really terrible about a guest, and that's only happened like 3 times. And the only other time that I deleted a comment, somebody said something really ignorant about a buddy of mine who was killed in support of operations in Afghanistan. And I deleted that one, and that was mainly just kind of protect his family. But yeah, what I usually end up coming back, I'll like toy with these people and everything, and eventually they think that by leaving a negative comment they're really doing something, and I'll just say, hey, I appreciate you leaving this comment. Like that feeds into YouTube's algorithm and ensures that more traffic gets driven to this video. So you're doing a great service to me and the channel. Yeah, but I don't let myself get spun up about it. I don't think I've ever really got mad about any of it.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. I mean, you the unfortunate reality is, especially when you've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers and millions of views, is the even though it's a tiny percentage of hundreds of thousands is still a few morons, and they're going to be there, and you have to accept that that's going to be the case, and just kind of let it roll off you, or else you'll never be able to do this.
Yeah.
People love
I will never
keyboard cowboys.
I will never let a stranger on the internet ruin my day.
Oh yeah.
I barely let anybody in real life ruin my day. So I try to maintain some control over that within myself. So.
Well, it's like, I mean, the person who makes the comment, they have nothing to do with your life. You're never going to meet them. Like, who cares what they think?
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys should make a special YouTube video each and turn all of your negative comments into inspirational quotes, put music to it, and do a video, and just
I don't know, it sounds like a lot of editing to me.
That would be like, put it to some really nice inspirational music, and then put the comment. Oh, that would be
kind of like the closest I got to anything like that was my April Fool's Day video about why Woodrow Wilson was my favorite president. I had the inspirational music in the background, and I spun all the horrible things he did into something positive. So
it's just let's see. Speaking of that, Matt's Swy90. I read that Chris loves President Wilson in Michigan football. Is that true?
Yeah, you're blocked, Matt.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Freddie Joe has a question. Wait, why isn't it popping up? Oh, any plans for the Philippines, the Bataan Death March, the raid, etc.? Anything? Do you guys have any of you? Does that intrigue you, interest you? Something you want to go do?
100%. Yeah. I would love to get over to the Philippines, especially after having spent some time on Guam and Saipan and Tinian. It's kind of whetted my appetite for some more Pacific War stuff. And I've had several people reach out to me from the Philippines, and because whenever you're there in Guam and Tinian and Saipan and everything, you're not really too far from the Philippines. I just didn't have time to do it. I guess I could have neglected my family and went over there, but anyway. But I've had several people reach out and say, "Hey, if you ever come to the Philippines, let me know." And those are difficult because somebody leaves a comment on a video saying, "Hey, contact me. I know these places," and then like a month later, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, now how am I going to scroll through hundreds of comments and everything?" But yeah, anyway, short answer to that is I would love to go to the Philippines and check that stuff out.
I'll probably live vicariously through him because I've got a list that's so long I'm never going to get to in my lifetime as it is. So I'll enjoy his videos from the Philippines.
But before I go to the Philippines, I want to go to Peleliu though. Peleliu is probably, since I probably don't think I'll ever get to Iwo Jima, Peleliu is near the top of my list as far as Pacific stuff.
And to go there, it's not as restricted as Iwo Jima, is it?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
But from what I understand, like Peleliu is still pretty wild. I want to go to Okinawa as well, but Okinawa is really, really built up and urbanized now.
I want to see you go to Guadalcanal and get to Yamamoto's plane, go out into the woods and do that one, into the jungle.
That's also on my list. Yep, I want to go out. That's in Bougainville, and I want to trek into the jungle and find that thing for sure.
Oh, that would be so cool.
It's still there, isn't it? I saw some videos of it a while back.
Yeah, I believe so. I've got a really good hookup in Guadalcanal and that area. So, yeah, definitely want to get to that spot.
Let's see. I guess this is kind of more a Chris question, but how do you feel about the history behind keeping the name King Charles?
I'm not
100% a Chris question.
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation about that because the first two King Charleses didn't fare so well. King Charles I was beheaded. King Charles II wasn't on the throne very long. I think because he's
third time's a charm.
Yeah, exactly. He's
sure.
been Prince Charles for so long. Everybody's known him as that. I'm not surprised he decided just to keep the name everybody's known him by for 73 years. If he had become king 20 years ago, it might have been a different story. We might have been talking about King George VII. But yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all.
So Chris, this is kind of a question. I was thinking about this today. How do you think everything is going to change now that he's king? Do you think anything's going to change? Do you think?
I think less will change than people think. I think a lot of people are expecting, oh my gosh, he's gone. He's so different. He's not as well loved. It's going to be a mess. I think it's going to be a whole lot of nothing. It's all going to kind of settle into place, and people are going to start talking about William because they're going to make William Prince of Wales probably sometime in the next year or two. And people will already start thinking about that. I think it's going to be a whole lot of nothing. Just like, when he married Camilla and everybody was like, oh, they said they're not going to make her queen. She's going to be princess consort. And then earlier this year, the queen made a statement about her being queen, and they made the announcement today and described her as the queen consort, and nobody batted an eye. It was like something 10 years ago people would have freaked out about, and everybody was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then, so I don't think it's going to be, people are talking about now Scotland's going to take this chance to break away, and Northern Ireland's going to want to, and the biggest thing I think might happen, maybe Australia breaks away from the Commonwealth and removes him as head of state. That might be about as far as it goes. The song will change the national anthem. Walk with History said yes. And that will happen tomorrow. There's actually a ceremony for that. He's going to be in London, and this is, I could go all night about this. They're going to have what's called an accession council where they're going to officially declare him King Charles III. And for the first time, they'll sing God Save the King as the official national anthem. So
that is very interesting. How long have you been into that history?
It started for me, believe it or not, because of a TV show that wasn't that historically accurate. It was The Tudors.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
I really got into The Tudors, and just like with Braveheart and all the historical inaccuracies of it, even though it was inaccurate, it was a great entertainment, and it led me to be interested in that time period, and I've been obsessed with the monarchy ever since.
Oh, so it's not even like that.
No, it's probably the last 10 years, 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Oh, Wow, interesting. And that's also the thing that, you know, people who love history need to remember. Even when we get those Hollywood movies that have the inaccuracies and stuff like that, it does actually get people interested
Yeah.
in research into that, you know, history. Just like I was just like Chris, I loved what you said on one of the lives, and somebody asked how to get into history, like get back into World War II history, and you said find one book or one documentary and just watch it, whether it's on a person, a unit, a battle. He goes, and then it's all, you know, downhill from there. You're
That'll
gonna
lead
find
you to
so
something
many.
else. That'll
It'll
lead you to
lead you.
something else. You talk
Yeah,
about the rabbit holes all the time. Yeah. Once you get
the
started.
rabbit hole. Oh man, those rabbit holes are something else. I don't know how to stop them. Let's see. If you had a time machine and can travel back in time to any point in history, what are some of the first things? What are some of the first things you would love to go back and see slash experience? JD?
As far as things to see, um, I would like to see the day three of the Battle of Gettysburg.
Mm-hmm.
Would be a big one for me. I don't want to be in it. I
Yeah.
want to observe from a distance. I
Mm-hmm.
want to. I was getting ready to say be up in a hot air balloon, but I don't like heights that much. So, but yeah, to be able to see that from a distance and just see that huge mass of people.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Gary Edelman, and he said that on the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg, he went up in the Pennsylvania Monument, and they had this like battle walk where all kinds of people came out, you know, just like tourists and everything, and they had it arranged where everybody was going to kind of retrace Pickett's charge, and he was up on the Pennsylvania Monument with a whole bunch of other people. And as these people were coming across, he was kind of like narrating, "Oh, okay, well, here's, you know, where Pettigrew and Trimble would have been," and he's kind of like narrating where these different regiments would have come across. And he said it gave you an idea of just
Mm.
what this mass of humanity coming across that field would have looked like. And
Wow.
I think that would be something to see. And then the other one would probably be, you know, D-Day,
Mm-hmm.
just seeing what that looked like, you know, in the Omaha Beach sector.
Mm-hmm.
JD actually mentioned one the last time we did this together that I've been thinking a lot about that I wish I would have said before, which is the opening artillery barrage at Verdun.
Oh, I forgot that I'd said that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, a
Yeah.
million shells being fired in a day on a span of like, I don't know, a dozen miles or so. You know, just the drum roll of artillery that, you know, just, I don't even think people have ever really truly been able to wrap their minds around how intense that artillery was during World War One. I mean, you know, we see in Band of Brothers what happened to those guys in Bastogne,
Mm-hmm.
and not in any way taking away from the hell that was for those guys, because I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But it was a cakewalk compared to some of those World War One battlefields with the artillery, the way it was massed. So that would be one for me. Another one is very specific. I'd love to be in the crowd for Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address,
Oh, that'd be cool.
which is my favorite, probably one of my favorite speeches of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be a cool one.
Yeah,
This is a question that might reveal my own ignorance. In the book, All Quiet on the Western Front, was there a particular battle that that is a part of that story?
I believe it focuses more on the
Can't.
middle to the end of the war. And I want to say it's up toward like Ypres, Passchendaele, the Somme. It's the northern part. But it's been, oh gosh, it's been years and years since
Yeah.
I saw that. So maybe somebody that's watching will be able to answer that better. But yeah, I'm excited about that movie that now that Netflix dropped the trailer.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say, aren't they
I'm
coming out
pumped
with a
about that.
new? Yeah.
End of October. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Here's what made me think of all that is after I watched that trailer, you know, there's a scene in the trailer where there's these Germans all lined up against this trench and they're using flamethrowers
Yeah.
in the trenches. And I got to thinking, I'm like, I don't really know much about flamethrowers and their use in World War One. So I started, you know, kind of doing a deep dive. And I think that one of their first uses was at Verdun. So whenever you said that,
Yeah,
that's what
and
triggered that thought for
the
me.
The way those were used in that scene, they're up really close, which makes me think it's earlier in the war, because the early flamethrowers on the German side had a max range of like 20 yards or something. So, but later on they had much more of a long range, and they would have been using them further back than that. But I'm trying to look it up right now to see what it is.
Yeah, that's something that also that's kind of interesting about, Saipan. Of course, they use a lot of flamethrowers in there, clearing out those caves. Those caves are still scorched today. There's black marks, on the inside where they were utilizing flamethrowers there. So anyway, I'm sorry, I got us off on a tangent there.
I don't know that much about World War One. Is I know like kind of like the basic like abridged version, but I don't know the full details, which is why Chris, what you do is absolutely amazing. You bring that that war back to present and tell people about it, and it's like and I know I've asked Chris this questions so many times, and you always say that if you could, I think, how did I word it the last time you were on? If you could be in one battle or wouldn't be in one battle, what would be? You're like, I would never want to be in World War One. I would never ever want to be in World War One. I'd rather be in the Civil War first before being in World War One. Like that's just, it just shows you the intensity of
there's nothing about that even seems glorious or appealing at all.
It's insane. Hi guys, vlogging through history subscriber here. Which historical event would you like a movie of? Greetings from Argentina.
We're trying to think of, we had that question last time, and I'm going to try and think of a different answer. So Chris, go ahead. And it'll give me
I remember your answer because it was a really good one, and I wish I had taken it. I would say World War One, but we're starting to see more. I mean, we had 1917. We've got the remake of All Quiet on the Western Front. There have been some like lesser known ones as well. I see, and I know what Sarah would probably say, Korea. And there's a movie coming out from Korea about some pilots that looks really, really good. So I'm excited about that one. So I would say I would love to see a really well done miniseries on the Wars of the Roses. We've had kind of fictionalized ones that have touched on that, like The White Queen, that kind of picks up on the end. But I want something just focused on the history of it and focused on the main characters involved. It isn't a Shakespeare version of it. I would love to see something on that because it's such a fascinating time in history to me. But
yeah, that is. JD, what about you?
We're kind of lacking on any like Revolutionary War content. Like there's The Patriot, which is a pretty cool movie, but there's not a whole lot that I can think of, at least off the top of my head.
Turn Washington Spies was really good.
Yeah.
Okay, I never watched that.
It's good.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe it's already been made, and I'm just behind.
It focuses less on the war though, and more on the Culper spy ring, you see parts of the war through their eyes. So you get a little bit of a glimpse at Monmouth and a little bit of a glimpse at Yorktown, but it focuses more on the people involved. The Crossing was good, yeah.
The Crossing, yeah. Chris,
here's maybe another one, just off the top of my head. So I'm a descendant of a guy named Abednego Inman, and he was a guy who ran with Daniel Boone and was in Daniel Boone's party. And he had two brothers named Shadrach and Meshach. And there's a story, and I forget which one of them it happened to, but there's a story where they got into a fight with some Native Americans as they were going through Tennessee, and one of them got clipped on the head with a hatchet, and took out a big part of his scalp. Anyway, a movie that maybe was kind of, I don't know, around like Daniel Boone and maybe one of those expeditions to the west, that might make for something kind of entertaining and cool something that would maybe be, you know, in the same style as like a Last of the Mohicans or The
Mm.
Revenant or something like that might be kind of a cool subject for a film.
That would be. I walk with history. I absolutely love this. I think this is a great idea. I want a movie about the waves waxed, all the women that flew, the planes stateside, like a league of their own.
Mm.
But I think that would be fantastic.
That would be awesome.
That would be so amazing. The women of World War II, because they did a lot. They
And
did
speaking
a
of
lot.
women, you know, it would be a fantastic story. And I don't know if maybe the Russians have made something. Is the women fighter pilots that the Soviet Union used during World War II. The Night Witches, I think they called them.
The Night the Night Witches.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Even a World War II movie or a World War I movie that was from a nurse's perspective would be pretty interesting.
That would be. There is a book, American Nightingale, by Bob Welch, but it's about one of the nurses in World War II. She was actually the first nurse to be killed by enemy fire in the Pacific Theater, and she documented so much of her time, you know, being a nurse and everything before she was killed. But that would actually be a really good movie about the nurses of World War II, because they saw a lot.
Yeah.
A lot treating our wounded, and you know, medical back then isn't like what it is today. So I'm sure that is like a big difference. But I just like Chris said, everybody know that I would want something on Korea on the Chosen Reservoir. That would be my pick.
Yeah, that would be that'd be
that
awesome.
Is my pick. I want that movie so bad.
I just saw a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
My uncle was my grandpa's brother was in the 15th Infantry in the 3rd Infantry Division in Korea. So I'm right there with you. I'd love to see something on that.
Yeah,
that'd be
awesome. I just saw a comment from I think it was Freddie Farnsworth. These are going by pretty fast. That said that he's a direct descendant of Daniel Boone,
my cousin, Freddie.
So I'm wondering if he is, if like his grandpa or great grandpa or something like that might be Jerome Boone, because that would be pretty dang cool.
Freddie Joe is
as I was going.
Yeah, he did say that. I saw it too, because I was going to comment on it, because I'm descended from 2 of Daniel Boone's sisters. Both my parents are descended from Daniel Boone's sisters.
So here's why I say that. I did a YouTube short on this as I was, you know, like looking up pictures and original content or archival content to include with the series. I came across this photo in the National Archives, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but the photo is 2 Marines on the beaches of Saipan, and they're dragging the body of a dead Japanese soldier, and on the back, long story short, the individual in the background who is helping to drag the body is Jerome Boone, who was the great grandson of Daniel Boone, and was a Marine fighting right there at the Battle of Saipan. Whenever I came across that, I was so excited. I was like, it's kind of one of those cool little, you know, hidden gems.
That was a really cool reel. Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I love finding those connections like that. I like finding out that, well, I mean, a lot of people know that Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr. was killed in the Pacific, and he was a son of a Confederate general. But then Nathan Bedford Forrest III, who was the grandson of Nathan Bedford Forrest, was killed in Europe during World War II. I think he was a fighter pilot or a bomber pilot. He was a pilot, as was Stonewall Jackson's great grandson. I think his name was Thomas Jackson Christian. He was also in the Army Air Corps, and he was killed I think he was a brigadier general. He was killed during World War II.
Dang, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's insane. But it's so weird, those little like connections and descendants and everything. To answer your question, Freddie Joe says, our family tree is a willow bush. So he doesn't, he's not 100% sure.
I'm gonna, Freddie, when we see each other in Bastogne, Freddie, we'll talk, and I'll see what I can research, because I want to find out how closely we're related.
That would be so interesting.
So here's what I found. You know, a lot of those family connections and everything. There was one video whenever I was in Normandy, I mentioned that, I'm a direct descendant of William the Conqueror, which I've always thought was kind of a cool little unique thing. Well, I still think it is. But anyway, on that video, I got tons of comments, people saying, "Hey, I'm a descendant of William the Conqueror too." It's like everybody's related to him. And I was like, "Oh man, maybe I'm not so special after all."
That's, oh my gosh, that's crazy. My mom I just had a thing pop up. She just messaged me, "You are a descendant of the Braveheart or something." I have no idea what that means.
Oh, William Wallace?
Well, now it depends on what you mean by Braveheart, because you go to Scotland
I know,
and say
so
that.
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
They will remind you vigorously that Braveheart is actually Robert the Bruce, not
Robert the Bruce,
William Wallace.
Yeah, my mom said Sarah is a direct descendant of Braveheart, so I don't. That's not my thing of history, so I don't. I'm not sure what she's talking about.
I don't know if he had. I don't know if William Wallace had kids.
No, he didn't.
Okay, so it's probably Robert. Anyway. Maybe it's Robert the Bruce.
Could be, yeah.
Well, there we go. So I just learned something new today. I learned in history.
Awesome.
That's fun. Let's see. I think this question, actually, I did post about this the other day, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. But any thoughts on the potential tribute to Heroes Project on the beaches of Normandy? If I'm correct, I think this is the one where they want to do like a very interactive,
like a theme park.
The locals are calling it a theme park type of thing. Like, what do you guys think about stuff like that?
Go ahead.
I don't know what a theme park means.
Yeah.
So if you go to St. Côme de Mont, which is just inland from Utah Beach, there's this amazing museum called the D-Day Experience. I would argue that it's probably the best museum in Europe. I mean, it's phenomenal. Well, in there they have this. I don't know if you wouldn't really call it a ride, but it's kind of an interactive experience where you get inside, a C-47. I think it's the same C-47 that they used in Band of Brothers. And anyway, it's almost kind of like a ride-ish. That I would be cool with. I think that's fine, as long as they don't build it like on a very key spot of the battlefield.
Right.
That happened over in the British sector. Right there in Asville. No, not Asville. Oh gosh, this is embarrassing. Anyway, one of the main batteries over there on the British side, they put this big gaudy building right on the approach where these British troops came through. It's stupid. So if it's something like that, I would be cool with it. If it's D-Day Six Flags, that I would think is an issue. And and even if they did do D-Day Six Flags, get it. Don't put it on the beach. Don't put it on like Hill 112 or anything like that.
Yeah.
If there's some kind of neutral spot they could put it.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I love the interactive stuff if it's done in such a way that helps you learn and it's not just there to make a buck. And especially like JD said, as long as it doesn't interfere with the places where things happened. Like if you do go to Bastogne, you're going to see they've put up a fence at the Bois Jacques where the Gus Music Company were.
Those people the people who did that are criminals. Yeah. They are criminals.
Granted, I've never been there without the fence because the fence was already there when I got there. But I've heard a lot of people complain about that. I'm not crazy about that. Now, thankfully, it's not all the way around the whole thing. So, like the part overlooking the town of Foix, there's no fence there. But that kind of stuff, I don't like. Other than that, I mean, they haven't done a lot. There's no signs there. Like, there's not, people put little memorials and things like that. But yeah, it can be done in such a way that helps you learn better and doesn't interfere. I hate going to some places like Fredericksburg, for example, where you can't even really get a sense of what the battle was like because it's so different now than what it was then, because it's been over, and if they're going to do that kind of stuff, just to try and take advantage of tourists, then I'd be against that.
Yeah, I think so. But and Walk with History, she said something pretty, a museum with like interactive history, but like not on the beaches,
Right.
somewhere off-site, not, And I think when they were saying like theme parks, when I was reading the article, I think they were being a little bit overzealous
Mm.
using that word. It's not
Yeah.
it's not like a Six
Hopefully.
Flags,
Yeah.
type of thing. But interactive museum, if that helps, because people learn differently nowadays than they do like even 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Interactive social media is all visual,
Yeah.
type of thing. So I don't think it would be, that type
Well,
of stuff would be actually pretty cool.
I'll tell you what, if we were to have visited Gettysburg 20 years ago,
Yeah.
30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the standard of how Gettysburg looks today, we would have been appalled at it.
Yeah.
There was this
Yeah.
giant, gaudy tower. Now, I never saw that. Chris, you probably visited one of the towers.
I've been in it. Yeah, I was in it.
Oh, really?
You've been in the
It was
tower?
it was like 350 feet high, something like that. It was really, really big.
Yeah, and if you look at
right
old
on
pictures,
Cemetery Hill.
I mean, there was a gas station right there in the middle where Barksdale's charge took place, right there by the peach orchard. I mean, there were places in Gettysburg. It looked like the Vegas Strip.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot to restore it back to closer to what it looked like.
Well, Antietam, the Dunker Church used to be like a little stop where you could get food. So
Yeah.
they've done a lot to restore a lot of those places.
So that's why it's important,
so-
like places like Battlefield Trust, to be like,
Oh yeah.
keep going and preserve
Yeah.
these places,
Yep.
because people don't, people want to make money, so they're like, well, it happened, how many years ago? We're just, gonna build apartments or whatever. So it's good that we have people like Battlefield Trust to make sure that those get preserved and everything. So
Well, whenever I was in Poland, and had a few days there at the end, and went to the Plaszow concentration camp, that's where Schindler's List is set. On part of the concentration camp, there's a giant apartment complex on it, which is kind of
really,
weird. Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
it's so weird how those just get kind of like lost and
Well, not everybody
depreciated.
loves and appreciates history the way that we do.
Yeah.
Some people are like, I don't care what happened here 100 years ago. I only care about right now. So
exactly. Yeah. Let's see. Chris, answer your question. If Freddie goes to Bastogne, I guess I'm going. So there's your answer right there. Hold on. Where's that comment? When a new comment comes in, it like scrolls it all the way back to the bottom. The name Gavin. I remember my grandma told me, this is actually pretty cool. Told me that her dad was a furniture maker in Germany and ended up making a few pieces for Hitler himself. Most of the furniture in her house had swastikas underneath it.
Wow.
That is super interesting. That is so weird how, yes, Walk with History preservation is definitely important. So, yeah. So, well, this hour has been super fun as always. I love having you guys on. I appreciate you guys coming back on and chatting with all of us and answering questions.
Absolutely.
And just giving us updates on what to anticipate, your escapades and all that other stuff. So I appreciate it a lot. So
No, I appreciate you inviting us. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I love the work that you're doing.
no, thanks.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
sweet.
Always enjoy it. And, it's kind of hard to follow up having somebody like Scott Grimes. I thought maybe you were getting a little too big for us now. So,
Oh, no. No. So that was a fun episode though, but I got my OGs right here. Got my Oh, awesome. Well, you guys have a good night. Thank you everybody for joining in. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions and everything. But JD, Chris, thanks so much for coming on again, and I'm sure I'll bug you guys in the next few months to come back on again. So
sounds
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
Yeah. Anytime.
All right.
Take
Everybody
care.
have a good night.
Thanks.